All right. Well, welcome back to the Know Your Numbers REI podcast with your host, Chris McCormack. And today we have a special guest in the name of Jennifer Aube. Jennifer is a certified financial planner, certified kingdom advisor, and chartered financial consultant. She has a wealth of knowledge in the financial space and also a wealth of knowledge in the leadership space, and is even studying to get her PhD in organizational leadership. Jen, welcome. Thank you for being here. And if you don't mind just giving yourself a little bit more of an introduction, and we can jump right into the conversation.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. And thank you for having me. I really appreciate you taking the time to do this. It's always really exciting when people are willing to kind of go that extra mile and educate their client base through podcasts and other media. So I'm happy to be here. A little more about me. I guess I'm a mother of four as well. So juggling parenting along with being a busy professional is probably what the bulk of my time is spent doing. Yeah, my relationship with God is really important to me, and I love to integrate that into my financial practice and leadership as well. It doesn't mean that all my clients have the same faith as I do, and that's perfectly fine. I truly believe that we are called to be salt and light, and I aim to do the right thing 100% of the time. Human make mistakes, but try to make sure my staff and I always have our hearts in the right place, and that we are trying to serve clients at the highest level to get them to their goals. And we just lead from there.
Yes, absolutely. Well, that's a good place to start. We are open about our faith convictions here on the podcast, but that doesn't mean that every listener has the same faith convictions. And I kind of appreciate that. I think it leads us to be refined. I think for you, Jen, if we could just start by getting a grasp on how you integrate your faith and finances. The Bible is very open about the money in this world and how we're supposed to manage it, but it can be overwhelming for people listening. There's a lot to be said in the Bible about money. So for you personally, how have you integrated your faith and your finances in your current role as a financial planner?
So the Bible, believe it or not, says more about money than heaven and hell combined. So that's usually a really big surprise to people, that God has so much to say about it. And so one of the ways that I lead my clients, believers and non-believers, is the reality that we look right into Genesis, and, God created the world and everything in it. So therefore, it is not ours, but His. Mm-hmm. And so acknowledging that as humans, we are stewards of money. We are not the owners, but the stewards. And so really looking through not just money, but our time, our gifts, our pain, our talents through the lens of stewardship is really how I start the conversation with clients. Like, what's important to you? Tell me about your family. Tell me about, who do you give to? Like, do you give to any charities? I mean, whether that be your church, whether that be the American Cancer Society or something else you're passionate about, but how can we steward your money for now and into the future, aligning with each and every client individually.
That's good. And for somebody who might not have ever heard of the word stewardship, how do you explain that to somebody who, again, might not have the faith convictions or the backing, where that's just normal conversation for them?
A steward is a manager and a slave simultaneously. Mm-hmm. So, we're really called to how do you manage money yet have a heart of service, be willing to sacrifice yourself. Kind of the concept of a fiduciary is what probably comes up most often when it comes to financial services. People say, are you a fiduciary? And I am a fiduciary as a certified financial planner. But even outside of that, I think a fiduciary would be a really close relationship to a steward. A fiduciary is to act in somebody else's best interest, in my case, my client's best interest, even if, I might have a choice between two products, but which one is going to serve the client the best? And so that's how I steward to my clients. That's one way to help them steward to their family in their life. For every dollar that comes in, each dollar has a job. Mm-hmm. Which one is to feed your family? Which dollar is to clothe your family? Which one is to pay your mortgage, your car? which one is to save for something down the track, send your child to school, etc.
And when do you think, because this opens up a whole can of worms, because there's people that are in life and maybe don't have those responsibilities of maybe even the marriage or the children or education, some things that come later in life based on your dispositions or desires in life. So when do you usually recommend teaming up with somebody like yourself? How have you seen different situations work out over the course of time, whether it's somebody just getting started, somebody in their 40s that maybe feels a little bit behind the ball? How have you approached the different situations, and which one have you seen works best in the eyes of the consumer?
I think the best time to start working with a financial advisor is today, like if you're not already doing so. I think, not every financial advisor will work with every client. You might call a firm and they kind of do a screening and you find out they have an asset minimum or some sort of a criteria, and that's okay. Keep calling. It doesn't mean you're not going to find somebody who's a good fit for you. But I think having somebody outside yourself who can look at your whole picture, and money is, it's about dollars and cents and calculations, but more than that, it's a behavioral and psychological problem. Or solution also. A lot of money problems have less to do with the money itself, but more to do with some sort of something we've brought into our life. We've carried it forward with us from generation to generation to generation. We find ourselves having money patterns or money thoughts or money behaviors, not because we've consciously thought, oh, I really want to be a good saver, or I really want to be, or I like, or maybe someone who spends too much, but you sort of just fallen into it based on money patterns that you are kind of walking out based on something internal that you probably don't even know about. So I think a financial advisor can help you make the best decisions for you, as well as help you identify what those things are that you really need to consciously work on. If you think about anything in your life that you do well, if you have a good exercise, if you exercise frequently, you probably have gotten into an exercise routine. You probably blocked it off on your calendar and you get up and do it. You don't just fall into a bunch of squats, you intentionally do it. And your money is the same. It requires intentionality. And so I think any phase of the game is an important time to get a start on it.
Yeah, you mentioned the behaviors that people have as it relates to money. And I think part of the reason Christ talks about money so much is because it is a symbol for our heart postures, which then act out in this life through our behavior. So for you, as somebody who has seen a lot of different scenarios and worked with a lot of different people, faith-based and non-faith-based, what are some of the different behaviors that you see? If you could whittle it down to maybe 3 to 5 behaviors that are pretty general throughout, regardless of the type of person that you're meeting with, what have you seen in your experience?
I think you're right. I think, when God talks about money, and a lot of people say, show me your bank account and I'll show you where your heart is, and that is 100% true. So I think the thing you see most often, to be quite honest, is that if you take a good solid, no one wants to go look at it. Most of the time when I say take a look at your spending habits, take a look at where your money's going. There are people who keep very detailed spreadsheets, don't get me wrong, but there are also a lot, I'd say more, who do not. And they're like, I don't want to think about it. And they don't want to look at it because it's really uncomfortable to look at where your money's going, because it does reveal a lot. So I'd say that's probably one of the most common things, is just that people don't want to look at it. But I think when you do look at it, you might find you're giving more than you thought. You might find you get more coffee out than you want. But, I think it's a good, sometimes people will say, well, I don't want to go on a budget. I'm not. And I'm like, I'm not necessarily looking to put everybody on a budget. That's not, it's more just to understand, what doesn't get measured doesn't get managed. Yeah. So it's good to have an understanding of where things are going, what you're doing with your money, like how much is going to each place. And there's no right or wrong answer, but it's like, this is what you are doing. Is this what you actually want? And it's really making those unconscious decisions conscious.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the title of our show, right? The Know Your Numbers. We know that if you don't, like you said, with what doesn't get measured can't get managed. And so if you're not aware of the numbers, which are a visible representation of your behaviors, then you won't be able to change. And that's ultimately what people want, right? They come to you because they want to change what they're currently sitting with and make it even greater. Would you say that Christians in particular have certain behaviors that they get hung up on? I mean, how have you seen the church as a body of believers, as different people approach finances, whether that's good or bad?
No, I think it's pretty much the same across the board. I
Okay.
think humans are humans and we all have the same tendencies and the same proclivities towards overspending, underspending. It's a very much familial and behavioral. And the church, though, is very good at providing supports with such things such as Financial Peace University and different, like the Dave Ramsey programs. They're typically quite good at that. So if somebody is struggling, they may have easier access to resources. So I will find more that there are a lot of people who've gone through that process. So that those basic fundamentals, spend less than you earn, don't take on debt, really basic principles of financial stewardship. And those are solidly taught. Then kind of when you get beyond that, when it comes to generosity, like extreme generosity, kind of getting beyond the tithe is so conversation beyond that, conversation about estate planning, passing on your wealth to other generations. I think that conversation is not had frequently enough, whether you're in the or the secular world.
Yeah.
It is a conversation that is really overlooked. So I start having that conversation with my clients pretty early. Like, do you want to do your giving while you're living? Do you want that, or do you want to wait? And do you want it to all go to, I think we subconsciously, again, just do what our parents do. Well, my parents gave it all to me, so therefore I'm going to give it all to my kids. Okay, that's not wrong. It's just, again, it just goes back to that consciousness. Are you consciously stewarding in the way God calls you? Have you prayed on this? Like, where is God calling you to save your money? Because we might think of tithing all through our lifetime. Okay, I'm tithing my 10%, and then the church asks for some sort of, they have a building fund and I'm going to give extra that year, a vision offering or something like that. And you're contributing to those things, but do you want that to continue later on? Do you want to designate, that's going to go to church XYZ, or do you want your family to then take over that stewardship? So maybe you want a percentage of your estate going towards giving, but maybe you want to make the decision and write it down and have it in your estate planning, or maybe you don't. Maybe you want to pass that stewardship opportunity on to them. And therefore, this legacy conversation really isn't just about the dollars and the cents and where it's going, but it's about the values and the scripture and all the conversations that are much more nuanced behind it. And it's not a black or white answer. And I think when people think about money, they think black and white, but there's really a whole lot of gray in there.
No, that's so good. And I think that's a good transition into another topic that I wanted to address with you is like this idea that finances are black and white, whether it's through products, right? Like, if you're not using cash value life insurance, then you're not going to be wealthy, or even like services, right? There's people that think that you shouldn't work with, say, a financial planner because it eats away at your bottom line through the use of fees. So two people that either think that everybody should be involved in a certain product, or that a financial advisor, financial planner is not beneficial to anyone. How would you approach that conversation? I guess we could start with the products conversation and then go more into the financial.
Okay. So the products conversation is something I run into a whole lot. Someone will call and say, for example, I'm using life insurance to draw funds off of it for a living. And so, is that the right answer? Someone came in really hot and gave a good talk and it sounds great. And it might be, but it might not be. Annuities is another one, I have clients who walk in, don't talk to me about annuities. I hate annuities. I don't want an annuity. Or I really have to have an annuity because my friend who was sitting next to me at the restaurant last night said they got an annuity and they've been retired for 10 years. Okay. I think suitability it's a big principle in financial services that all advisor must adhere to. So if you ever run into somebody selling one phone is a straight up red, if you talk to you and 5 of your friends, you're not all using the same toothpaste. You have a different set of spending habits. One might like Folgers coffee. One might like to go to Whole Foods. One might like to go to some kitschy, like niche coffee shop and buy their coffee, right? It just depends who you are. We're all different. God created every single person different. We all have different family dynamics. We all are different ages. We have different personalities, different temperaments, different gifts and talents and abilities. And we're all called to something different. You might be called to drop everything and go to Southeast Asia and go on missions for 10 years, or you might be called into Manhattan to live in a, studio apartment at $9,000 a month. I mean, everybody's so different. So I think, again, you have to really approach these financial conversations with an open heart and an open mind and know that, yes, this might be great for certain group of people and it might not be. And to know whether it's right for you, you need to have that conversation. You need somebody to ask you, someone who's selling the product, not to just say, yes, this is great for you because I sell this product. I mean, if you don't have acne, you're not going to buy acne cream. It doesn't make sense. It might work great, but do you need it? Yeah. So I think having that conversation and figuring out, is this the right product for me, or are there other options? And then weighing those options. And it's not going to be a black or white, like yes, solid yes or solid no. Even a retired client entering retirement, annuity may work for them for a portion of their money, but do they want it? Do they want a contract, or do they want to have direct access? If they're really looking to mitigate risk a little bit, it may be worth being part of the plan. But I think you need to those conversations really need to happen in order to identify. So I'd say in financial services, be aware and be cautious of any real hot product out there, because it may be right for you, but it may not be. And I think you need to filter it through the lens of your own life.
No, that's good. I think to bring it back to when I was growing up, my mom used to say, like, if everybody was jumping off a bridge, would you do it? And
yeah, right.
The idea is that, like, just because everybody's doing it doesn't make it wise. And the same thing is here in the financial space. And that goes for both ways, right? Like, I think life insurance, I just pick on that one because it does bring up a lot of emotions, and we also talk about it. Like, I know that cash value life insurance is great for clients who it makes sense to, and I also know that term life insurance is great for people who it makes sense to. And I have both in our family economy, and so it's like
sometimes it's both. But yeah.
Yes, exactly. And but it's also taken the counsel of other people like yourself to help me gain clarity and make those decisions, which is a nice way to get into the conversation about financial advising, right? The people that are worried about the fees adding up as it relates to somebody managing your portfolio. This was big for me before I started the business because I wanted to try to be a minimalist and get out of corporate America as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
Like creating a nest egg. And the big thing was, in order to achieve financial freedom, you shouldn't be investing with a financial advisor. I have since gone back on that. And actually Jen is our financial advisor. And so I appreciate being surrounded by wise counsel. But for you, Jen, for the people that do find themselves in that territory or hear of people that say you can never be successful with a financial advisor because they collect fees and you eat away at your bottom line, how do you approach that conversation? Because I'm sure you've run into it in your practice.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to beg anyone to work with me. So, but for those who are, kind of come in with an open mind and are like, I'm really considering working with somebody, but tell me about your fees. Yeah. I mean, there are fees. I can't I have 4 kids. I have a
Right.
family to feed myself, right? I mean, I go to get my hair cut. I could do it myself. I could go
Yeah.
to CVS and buy the color, but I'm not, because it's not going to be very good, you know? So you get what you pay for in
Yep.
many cases. And we kind of talked about that insight of somebody who has a little bit of distance from the emotion of the situation. And there are a lot of choices out there. There's, you can e-trade different securities. And so I have a lot of clients where I'm working on the bulk of their serious long-term money, and then they keep an E-Trade account because they enjoy it. That's totally fine. If it's something you enjoy, have your amount you enjoy as your, like, I always bucket it in terms of, you have your get rich money and your stay rich money. I'll work with your stay rich money. Your get rich money, you go to work, you get it. You can go to the casino, you can go and, do E-Trade, whatever, that's fine. But if the money that you really know you need there, that stewardship principle comes back in, right? It's going to be there for the long term. Might you make 1% less? Maybe.
Yeah.
But if something happens with you, if you have a health issue, and I know you and I know your spouse and I know your child, and something changes, that's going to be a real comfortable, sad, but comfortable conversation when they come in and say, hey, we don't really know what to do. If you've got everything kind of in cyberspace, what's your spouse maybe who's not, typically in a couple, not both people are not like super actively engaged sometimes, but I'd say most typically I find one member of the relationship is really interested and really wants to come to the meetings, and the other one's either not showing up or being dragged along.
Yes.
But if both people are comfortable, then when you're going through the thing, life throws curveballs, all kinds of things happen to us over the course of a lifetime. And to be talking to someone who knows what the plan was, and then be able to shift and pivot and adjust that financial plan, because this business is about the financial products are a part of it. Mm-hmm. It's about the integrating the tax piece. It's about integrating the planning for education, integrating the retirement piece, integrating your goal to buy another house, your goal to buy a boat or take your kids, rent a big Airbnb every single year and take your family on vacation. And a robot's not going to really understand those goals. So yes, a robot can rebalance. You can buy good stocks. You could be a great stock picker and make a lot of money. But how do you use that money? How do you steward your money? So I think the financial advisor's job is really indispensable when it comes to knowing you, knowing your family, knowing your goals, and being able to, in a human way, be able to sit and, cry if needed, and to really say, okay, I'm going to let you, we're going to walk through this hard thing together, and you're still going to be okay because we planned for this. We planned for curveballs, and I'm sorry you're going through this, but let's walk through this and make sure you're in the best shape possible so you can go and sit by your spouse's bedside. You can hold their hand. You can focus on the things you really need to focus on now. Take some time away from work because we already thought about this. Mm-hmm. And so those are the parts that I think you just can't, you can't, that's what you're paying for. Right. And no, you're not going to use that side of the service every single year. But my clients come in, and I have an advisory board of clients, and it's about 10 different clients, and we actually meet tomorrow, Thursday this week, and we talk, and I'll say, how's your experience working with us? Like, tell me about it. How can we improve? Like, what would you like to see more educationally or in the newsletter? And we talk about these things. So, I can understand from the client's voice how to best improve the service so they're getting what they need. So that personalized piece is really the part you're paying for. And if that's not what you're looking for, if you're like, I don't care about that, I don't want that, probably then don't work with an advisor. But there may be a day I can guarantee there'll be a day that something changes and you're like, whoa, like I see why I need that. But yeah, it's very personal.
Absolutely. So you have clients, your advisory board is people that are clients, and then on a regular basis, they're giving you feedback for what they've enjoyed. And
yes. So it's a group of clients, all different ages, some married, some single, an estate planning attorney, and a CPA.
That's amazing. Mm-hmm. That's got to be very rewarding. We just did feedback forms from our clients, and I know the feedback we got was great.
Yes, it's really helpful.
I think you touched upon something that we see regularly here, and that's the human aspect. I can tell you that of the hundreds of phone calls that we've done over the years, one of the most common reasons that people are actually on the other line and looking for a new accountant or their first accountant is they want a relationship, right? You can go to TurboTax, H&R Block, or even some tax preparers in your local area, but if they're just kind of going through the motions and not really relating to and asking questions about your family and your goals and your challenges, then it doesn't feel authentic. And that kind of sounds like what you're looking to get ahead of and implement in your firm, is that people want that relationship so that when the hard times come, they know that they have somebody in their corner that has been there and understands them and can work through the muck, so that by the time that they're out of it, they're made whole again. And so I just emphasize that and can relate to that, because we see it on the tax planning side as well, is that people want a relationship, and especially as we go more towards technology, it's all the more important. And personally, as somebody who's been on the other side of your services, I definitely see that. Like, we have been blessed through the relationship that we've built with you. But that's a side point. Well,
it's always great to work with people. It's like that. Like what you said, it's that back and forth communication and knowing, because even as a tax professional, you could do your taxes, right, and just it's done.
Right.
You can invest in something, but is it going where you're going? Is it in alignment with what you're doing? And you can see as a tax professional, like when you the deeper intricacies, when you understand what's important to somebody. And I think that's something I deal with on the tax side as well, is I see a lot of people who've just been TurboTaxing or using a CPA or tax preparer who's not looking at the large picture. It's sort of like a silo of the current year. And so that individual may be putting all their money into pre-tax and doing their own investing. And then they come into me and they retire and they're 65 years old, or they want to stop working, and they have all their money in a pre-tax vehicle. And they're surprised as they can be that their tax bracket's going to jump up super duper high when they retire, because they're young and they're healthy and they actually have more time now to do more things. So maybe they were making 100,000, but now they want to travel a lot more or buy another home, and their lifestyle's going to be 150. And I have to say, well, your Social Security is taxable income. And then now you're going to have to take out, 100,000 from this big 401k you have. And that's 100% taxable too. And they're like, oh, well, my accountant used to tell me if I put this much in, I'd save. It's like, yes. So part of what I do is I look at the long game. Like, okay, This is great now. How does it look in still good? Or should we do some Roth 401k or after tax or taxable in a brokerage account? But I think, looking at those pieces, that somebody might be a good stock picker, but they don't understand the planning side, which is what you and I both do well.
Yes, 100%. I think one topic that I wanted to make sure we covered, and you kind of touched upon it earlier, is finances in a relationship, marriage relationship specifically. Because like you said, there's usually majority of the time, it's one person is hyper involved and the other person is either taking a back seat or doesn't know what's going on. And I know that, if you look at some of the statistics around divorce and relationships that don't make it, like finances are a huge part of it. And also divorces are extremely costly. And so if we could get out on top of that, for the people of the faith, like, divorce should be avoided at all costs, but like, regardless, it still happens. And that is something that we want to try to solve for. And we can do that by having these conversations and making marriage more of a cohesive, finances in the marriages, more of a cohesive approach, I guess. So for you, Jen, what are some of the challenges that you've seen as it relates to marriages and finances? And what are some of the success stories that you've seen, and like, how can we avoid some of the challenges and find ourselves more on the success side as people who are married and want to have a successful marriage?
I think it's with any topic, it's the communication. And opening yourself up. I heard, I think it was Tim Keller, he said the number one reason for divorce is selfishness. And that, whether it's infidelity, whether it's arguments about money or disparity in household chores, it all comes down to that one thing, right? And if you're refusing to have that conversation, why? Why are you not willing to open yourself up? Maybe it probably is uncomfortable. I, personally have experienced that, the discomfort with a spouse or with myself, feeling like, oh, I don't want to talk about this. I mean, how many memes have you seen of somebody or the little TikTok videos of somebody like, oh, I've got look all my Amazon packages. I got to leave in my car and bring them in after my husband gets home, right? Because it's uncomfortable. Nobody wants to deal with that. Hey, why are you buying so much stuff? Or what is all that? Nobody wants to have that conversation. And so we all have this propensity to want to just bury it or hide it, or no one will notice if I buy that thing. And so I think it's the communication and having it. And if you need your own, communicating, it's important to me that I have my own little bit of money, so I can just do this and you don't have to worry about it, as long as I don't outspend, this budget on the side or whatever. I mean, but to be able to say that and say, this is part of what it is important to me. Or maybe it's not. And maybe you say, nope, we're just going to, I don't know. I think it's no right or wrong whether you combine your money, whether you keep it separate. I think it's the communication and the trust that needs to be there. And so I think to get from, how do we keep money being the reason for divorce? It's the same as whatever that, you need to check your heart, make sure that, are you being open? Are you being honest? Are you saying what you need, what's important to you, where you struggle? It's digging deep into if you have strong money in your life, which most of us do of some level, we either some people spend too much because they're never sure when another dollar is going to come in, and then their partner doesn't spend anything because they're worried about the same thing. They don't know what the next dollar is going to come in, so they're hoarding it. But okay, we're both having the same fear. Why are we letting fear drive us, right? So it's we need to come out of fear, come out of the scarcity mindset, and move into an abundance mindset. We need to both trust that God is going to provide. God is our provider. First and foremost, none of this is ours anyway. Are we holding too tight with a closed hand? Why? Right. So it's just talking through all that uncomfortable stuff. I mean, I'm constantly telling clients, all right, go have date night this week and talk about whatever it is that we've just came up in the meeting. I mean, because it can get awkward sometimes when you're like, okay, well, what do you want to do in retirement? And one's like, I don't know, in Aruba 6 months of the year, and the other one's fishing in the pond in the back of their house. And you're like, okay, hold on. So it's just getting on the same page of having all those uncomfortable conversations. And again, if you're someone of faith who trusts the Lord, then, are we both doing that and helping hold one another accountable and praying for one another and praying for one another, praying with one another, reading scripture together. So it's the same thing, I'd say, as any other topic, really.
Right. Yeah, that's so beautifully put. And I'm sitting here thinking of the different times where Jasmine and I have not been on the same page, and it's usually lack of communication and varying expectations, right? She's thinking one thing, I'm thinking another thing. We think we're on the same page, and then we do have that conversation. It's like, whoa, I'm in left field, she's in right field. How are we so far apart? But I mean, yeah, always coming together. I think, just to put my 2 cents in it, we've been doing a marriage journal. And so every week we have conversations about how the week was. And once a month it asks how are we stewarding our finances? So you can't go more than a month unless you're skipping the weekly check-in.
Skipping the question.
Yeah. Without talking about your finances. Now, that's not the only time we're talking about our finances. I think the Millionaire Next Door book, which is a great book, people have varying opinions on it, as they do with everything. But they said one of the common themes with millionaires is that these are couples that are talking about their finances at least twice a week, 2 to 3 times a week. And so it's that communication, the integration, the coming together, two becoming one kind of thing. And it's a regular practice, not just once and done, but doing it on a regular basis. I'm sure there's some times where you feel more like a marriage counselor than a financial advisor being in
I think most of the time I feel like more of a counselor than a financial advisor in all meetings. Right. But and it's not, to your point, it's not even just we're going to talk about this once a month or once a year. It's even when you are talking about it, it might be a complete blow up disaster when you talk about it. And it might be, I think with anything, even especially with our marriages, we look at them and we're comparing it to someone else's. Oh, well, it doesn't look like that, or it doesn't look like that, or it doesn't look like this book says if we do this, this is going to happen. And we're each on our own journey personally. God's working on our hearts personally. So he doesn't have us like, okay, you're married and we're just going to go like this. Like, sometimes it's awkward and, we kind of go in different directions. But I think it's, keeping those lines of communication open, acknowledging that it's not going to look perfect. It's not going to look ideal. It's not going to look like a movie. And most people are not talking about money to other people. So you're probably not going to go to your friend and sit down and be like, we're really like struggling with this. Like, it's, girls may a little more, but, it's not, most people are like, that's the one topic they're not talking about. You know what I'm saying? Like they'll talk about sports. They'll talk about, we just can't get a babysitter and get a night out. But you're not like diving deep with your buddies on like this kind of stuff generally. So I think we can assume often, everybody's highlight reel and everybody's on the same page and everyone's connected, but most people are not. And I think we have to view everything as a lifelong journey. And as long as we have, and you'll probably feel like 5 step forward, 3 step back, and that's okay. You still have breath in your lungs. You still have another day. Keep walking it out, working it out, and you're growing so much in that process. And we don't give that process much credit, but we should.
Right. Amen. This is life-giving to me. I think I hope the listener is feeling refreshed. I think, Jen, as we aim to land the plane here, any closing thoughts that you might give to somebody, regardless of faith background, regardless of monetary financial position, any parting pieces of wisdom that you can think of before we get into there is one closing question that I ask guests, so I'll leave it up at the end.
Although just talk about it, whatever it is talk. Like talk to your spouse if you're in a relationship. And if you're not, write down your goals, plan your goals, look at what you're doing and acknowledge like the uncomfortable things inside you, so you can move forward. I think it's hard to be introspective sometimes. We're like, I don't want to look at that bad spot. I don't want to acknowledge that I've got this big latte factor, so just do the uncomfortable work like anything else, right?
Absolutely. Those lattes aren't getting any cheaper. That latte factor is getting bigger and bigger. So awesome, Jen. How can people get in touch with you if people want to work with you? What's the best way to contact you?
Sure. My website is jenniferaube.com. That's a good place. My Instagram is Jennifer W. Aube, and also on Facebook with Jennifer Aube Wealth Management. So
awesome.
Yes,
I can vouch for the quality of service. Like I mentioned, Jen is our financial advisor. We appreciate, but we know that her wisdom goes far beyond just our personal situation, and it's been an honor to have you. As we wrap up, we do ask one final question. So Jen Aube, what is one truth about money that most people regard as myth?
Ooh, gosh, I should have prepped for that one. A truth about money that most people regard as myth. Don't know. Well, I think that it's the big one. I probably already said it, is that it's how objective it is. People think money is a very objective, black and white spreadsheet kind of thing. And that is 100% a myth. I mean, even when it comes to even paying mortgage, I get that question all the time. Should I pay my mortgage off? Which one should I, and that is so much to it. Like I can do the math and let you know what makes more sense, paying off your mortgage or not, in terms of your long-term tax deductions and credits and things, as well as looking at your, the interest rate and those different factors. But even if it financially doesn't make sense, like, are you losing sleep over this? Are you going to sleep better? You can't put a price tag on that stuff. So I'd say the biggest myth is that money is objective and it's quite subjective.
That's really good. And that's a new one. We sometimes get repeating ones, and it's always good to see people's reactions because you have no idea that question's coming.
No.
I want to make a montage of everybody's reaction.
I'm going to have to go back and listen and see what everybody else said.
No, that's great. Thank you, Jen, for being here.
Thanks, Chris.
And for the listeners, go to jenniferaube.com and find her on Facebook and Instagram. Until next time, God bless you and keep moving forward.